Hey guys, Nestler Magic here, and we've got about 21 more spoilers if I counted correctly from Unstable. Oh boy, I'm so excited because I looked at a couple of these and you know how I said yesterday they're keeping it kind of normal and making it look playable, and it's like, oh yeah, +2 and fight and gain life. Okay, and then they're going to save the really weird stuff for a little bit later. Yeah. Yes, that is what they did. Let's start with Boom Flinger, which is a contraption. I already love the artwork. That's cool as hell. By the way, you would never get the charges to fire at the same time, unless it was like a U-shaped barrel. And then, well, then it wouldn't have the same velocity. That just wouldn't work. Well, it uses this really cool new mechanic that was already on one other card. Whenever you crank Boom Flinger, roll 2 6-sided dice. Boom Flinger deals damage to target player, not creature, just player, equal to the difference between those results. So that's actually pretty cool. I mean, I would definitely put that in my deck, and it's actually a common, which is really nice. Next up, we've got, in all lowercase, Capital Offense. How dare they? Anyway, it's an instant with a lowercase I. God, this card looks so weird. Target creature gets -X until end of turn. I already know what it's going to say. Where X is the number of times a capital letter appears in its rules text. I knew it! Anyway, I mean, for 4 mana double black, it's basically a kill spell. So, yeah, they just decided to be funny. But remember, the flavor text is not part of the rule text, and you ignore the reminder text, which is a description of a mechanic. I'm going to take a wild guess one of the other cards is probably written in all capital letters. Oh my god, it's literally the next one. Although it did say rules text. But, Clock of Doom. Went off a cliff there for a second. It's a 4-cost artifact. It actually is watermarked, though, which is a little bit unusual for colorless. So you pay 4, tap it, and move the crank counter to your contraption deck's next sprocket, and crank any number of that sprocket's contraptions. So it's kind of like getting another upkeep, I guess, except it only does the contraptions. But I was assuming they would have some kind of, crank inducer card, and this is really good because, I mean, in an average game, I would assume you're going to have quite a few contraptions out, and you want to just keep pounding them and hitting them, and you don't want them to be able to predict when you're going to hit them with a certain ability. Like, if they want to wait to get a creature on the field until you can't take it out for 3 turns, there you go, and then this would mess with it. Although this would be on the field and they'd see it. Either way, this is a darn good card, and it's only an uncommon, so you might actually be able to draft it. Next up, I don't understand this meme, and I never have. I think it's some stupid joke that pro players say, but it's Crow Storm, because apparently Stormcrow is like the best card ever. I don't even understand the context of that joke. I just never had it explained. Maybe they're making fun of authors that plug really garbage cards because basically, like, large companies bribe them to. Whether or not that is the reference, that happens. So this card's, like, pretty good, but even in, like, Constructed, it would be hard to get this to really work. You create a 1/2 blue bird creature token with flying named Stormcrow, of course. And it has Storm, so when you cast a spell, copy it for each spell cast before it this turn. And it is a 3-cost sorcery, so it's like, how much mana do you really have left, and why are those cards still in your hand? So I doubt the actual effectiveness, but I gotta mention, it is so unusual that they put this on a card, because Storm is in the top 5 for the most hated mechanics ever printed in the entire game. I mean, just hands down, it resulted in so many bans. I mean, just the player base really, maybe at the time liked it, but now, oh boy, people don't like Storm. Now, on the dislike scale, it's not even on the same planet as Infect, but people still really don't like Storm. So I guess they're kind of making a joke at their own expense. Hey, here's Storm again. Woo! By the way, there's an even worse joke at their own expense in here. I saw it on social media today. Anyway, let's move to the next contraption. It's Division Table. Oh boy, the old laser coming up to cut you in half trick from every movie ever. Whenever you crank Division Table, target player loses 2 life. Real simple. I mean, a lot of these are somewhat redundant, but a little bit different. But you wouldn't want them to be outrageous. Like, oh, summon a 4/4 beast token. Like, come on, really? I mean, remember, all you have to do is nothing to get these to go off. They're just there. They activate once every 3 turns, basically. So yeah, they pretty much just, like, can't be too good. Next up, we've got an amazing looking artwork on this Mythic card. It is a 6 cost with double white. A lot of double cost in this set because it's really supposed to be mono. So this one is called Do It Yourself Seraph. Not really sure what the play on words is there, but whatever. It's a cyborg angel, which by itself is just cool as hell. I really want this in foil, but I have a feeling this could like seriously be like $5 to $10 in foil. So it's a flying 4/4, and whenever Do-It-Yourself Seraph attacks, you may search your library for an artifact card, exile it, then shuffle your library. Do-It-Yourself Seraph has the text box of each card exiled with Do-It-Yourself Seraph in addition to its own, so the whole text box. So it gains all keywords and all abilities. Remember, you can handpick it, and it gets worse every turn. I mean, that's pretty nuts. So this could be single-handedly game-winning, but it kind of builds up and gives your opponent some time to respond, so it's a pretty fair card. Yes, I'm stating the fairness of a card in a joke set that's not meant to be taken seriously. Next up, another contraption, Dual Doom Suits. I love that. It's like some kind of weird, like, cartoonified Iron Man, I guess. So it's a rare contraption. Whenever you crank Dual Doom Suits, each time a source you control would deal damage this turn, it deals double that damage instead. And unlike every other just garbage red rare or mythic printed lately, it doesn't affect you. I mean, going back to like Theros, it was, oh, everything does double damage. Especially stuff that hits you. I mean, what the heck? I think there's a card that just makes things that hit you do double. So yay, we finally have the exact opposite. So this is the most powerful contraption I've seen so far. Next up, we've got Insight, the greatest card name ever. I mean, they could put that on a legit card. Well, probably not now. So it's a double blue X sorcery, and you guys know I love X spells. Assemble X contraptions, just straight up. So if you had like 6 mana, you could just go get the top 4 contraptions off of your contraptions deck and then just slap them down into play. That is going to turn the tide of the game, just not very quickly. That's why actually from a fairness perspective, this whole set is designed like really well. I mean, besides the jokes and the like pulling stuff from outside the game and all the like clear rule violations, if this was actually a real set and these were real mechanics, like it would actually be pretty good. Like it would be fair, respondable, and the games would all finish within a reasonable amount of time because it's like this build up, get worse. And if your opponent doesn't stop it, they are going to lose within a very reasonable amount of time. There's just no board stalling. I absolutely love this set. It looks so fair and so fun to play with. Gotta read the flavor text. After 100 failed patent applications, Cornelian, I don't know, was stunned to find that no one had ever created a steam-powered autonomous ice cream delivery system. Awesome. He immediately designed a gnome with scoops for hands. Why would the gnome be steam-powered? I don't quite follow that, but it sounds funny. Next up, Ineffable Blessing. I don't know what that word means, and I'm too lazy to look it up, but he is wearing a traffic cone on his head for the power of VLC. So it's only a 2-cost non-aura, just throw it out there, and whenever it enters the battlefield, choose Flavorful or Bland. I already love this. Mode 1, Flavorful. Whenever a creature with flavor text enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. Oh my god, I should have seen that coming. And the second mode is Bland. Whenever a creature without flavor text enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. Now keep in mind, although this is a rare and it's not very likely you'd end up with 2 of these in your deck in a draft, I suppose you could in Constructed, but anyway, you could get 2 of these out and choose opposite modes. Now the problem is, if you're going to put this in your deck, like ahead of time before the game starts, look at how many cards have flavor text and how many do not. Just keep, like, not necessarily a number in your head, but just, oh, more of them have flavor text than not. And if you're really smart, you know, compare it to the number in play, in the graveyard, you know, in your hand, whatever. For real, that could, like, be a real card. Like, I could see people playing with that. It actually seems, like, really fair and, like, balanced and appropriate. So next up, Party Crasher. He's got a big old nose. Let's just throw that out there. Also, oh my god, he's got what was it, MSNBC or whatever was warning everybody about. It's the chainsaw bayonet. Okay, I think it's like just a chainsaw, but I don't know. Is it a bayonet if it's attached to a robotic arm? I'm going to say yes. So this is a 5-cost Goblin Berserker. It's only 3/3, but it has haste. And guess what? You can attack with Party Crasher once each combat during each opponent's turn. Why is this not a mechanic? I love this. So then you both choose attackers, and then you go to like declared blockers, and you both declare blockers. Now I'm going to have to actually see a ruling on this card to see who goes first. I'm going to take a wild guess based on how Magic just works in general, that they would select their attackers first, then you would select your Party Crasher as an attacker or not, and then, let's see, I guess they would, maybe they would declare blockers, then you would, because it's like it's their turn, so they get to take the action first. Either that or it would be their choice. Not really sure. This card's actually kind of inherently confusing. They probably should have, been a little bit more clear. Well, they could have put all the rules on the card. I don't know, whatever. Hopefully they have an actual card ruling and don't just say, oh, it's not a real set, we're not going to make rulings. Next up, we've got a card that also has a promo version. Oh, yes. It's time for the rules lawyer. That's right. They are just pushing the boundary on how much they can make fun of themselves and pro players. And yes, those appear to be binary instructions on punch cards. Because of course. Or it's the language from Stargate. Not really sure, but... oh god, here we go. It's a 5-cost 1/1 artifact creature cyborg advisor, and it says... oh my god. State-based actions don't apply to you or other permanents you control. I am not familiar enough with that term to know what that actually means in a practical environment. So, let's read the reminder text. You don't lose the game due to having 0 or less life or drawing from an empty library. Your creatures aren't destroyed due to damage or death touch. Oh, I get it. State-based. It's like state-based, like, I don't really call them actions, but I guess they do. Oh my god. So, they aren't put into a graveyard due to having 0 or less toughness. Your planeswalkers aren't put into a graveyard if they have 0 loyalty. You don't put a legendary permanent into a graveyard if you control 2 with the same name. Counters aren't removed from your permanents due to game rules. Permanents you control attached or combined illegally remain on the battlefield. For complete rules and regulations, see Rule 704, which I don't think the rules go that high. I don't know. This card is going to be a nightmare, and I hope people don't play it because it is just crazy hyper powerful, but the game will just collapse and break down into like, it just wouldn't make sense. I mean, you basically can't lose the game, and you can't kill this guy. There's probably going to be entire articles written by like level 2 and up judges on this, so I'll just wait for that, but this just looks annoying, and I don't like it. Next up, we've got Selfie Preservation. Oh my god, it's basically like a dinosaur peacock with a selfie stick. I love it! Hey, and guess what, guys? That's a koala wearing sunglasses behind him. Oh my gosh, and I think they're tourists. Anyway, sorcery, search your library for a basic land card and reveal it. If there's a tree in its artwork, put it onto the battlefield tapped, otherwise put it into your hand. Then shuffle your library. Here's the thing, okay? You can bring whatever basic lands you want to a draft, so you should definitely only bring forests that have trees in case you get this spell. Here's the problem with this. Okay, take Selfie Preservation out of your deck and replace it with a forest. What's the point of having this then? If you just drew the forest instead every time you would draw this card, just play the forest. Although this would ramp early game, and we're talking like the first 3 turns, I guess. And it costs 2, remember that? Because after that, like, you're out of lands, and anything you pull, you would be able to play because you didn't already play one. So this is kind of just like a dead on arrival card that I wouldn't really put in, other than if I thought I needed to thin my deck, and a lot of stuff in the set costs 6. So I don't really see a point to this, but I love the artwork. Next up, it's not Praying Mantis, it's Slaying Mantis, the Lucha Libre fighter wrestler person guy thing. So this is a 7-cost creature, so pretty excessive. It's a 6/6, and it uses a mechanic called Just a Second. As long as this spell is on the stack, players can't move cards on the tap lands? I mean, would that be moving or would that just be rotating? Because remember, it's theorized that because black holes' cores, singularities, have no technical radius, then they might be able to, well, they can't move because they're still massive. They can't move faster than the speed of light, but they can rotate faster than the speed of light theoretically because their radius is infinitely small. It's just big enough to exist in the universe, but infinitely small besides that. That's at least one of the theories. So, with black hole physics in mind, would you be able to rotate a land to tap it, and that wouldn't be considered moving it? I mean, if you consider the center of the card to be a vertex, then it would work. But if it's two-dimensional, you kind of did move it, and can you really pin it perfectly and rotate it without moving it? Also, there are competing theories about singularities. Anyway, can't wait to read the rulings on this card. So ignoring that confusion for a second, Slaying Mantis enters the battlefield by being thrown from a distance of at least 3 feet. Oh my gosh. I already know where this is going. Get it? You can't move cards on the battlefield. You can't move them out of the way, which is what people would do when Chaos Orb was legal. That is true. The confetti thing, that's a rumor, but it is confirmed that people would spread their cards out when Chaos Orb came into play. So just a second, you cannot move cards on the battlefield. When Slaying Mantis enters the battlefield, it fights each creature an opponent controls that it touched as it entered. So, play with your creatures at least 1 card length apart at all times. I really was hoping that they would bring back like a card dropping, card throwing type of thing, and I'm actually really good at that kind of stuff because it's kind of like knife throwing. And honestly, those dumb carnival games you gotta like throw stuff at stuff, I'm really good at those too. So I'm definitely drafting as many of these as come near me and hopefully get into 7 mana. Next up, Snickering Squirrel. Love the stash, that's pretty epic. It's a Squirrel Advisor. I love advisors, that's gotta come up at some point. And it's a 1/1. You may tap Snickering Squirrel to increase the result of a die any player rolled by 1. So just 1 die and just 1 result, but you have to tap him. Now the weird thing is it's not a tap ability, but it kind of is. Like I don't get why they didn't phrase it as an ability with a colon. So anyway, that whole roll 2 dice and then the difference between them, blah, this would mess with it. So that's pretty clever. Next up we've got, oh yes, Spike Tournament Grinder. They put Phyrexian Mana in there because everybody hates it and wants it banned from the game for life. We got Gitaxian, now we just need like the other 2 that are a giant problem. Anyway, it's like black Phyrexian Mana, I guess. I think all Phyrexian Mana had a color context. I don't remember. I honestly didn't play back then. So it's a legendary creature, human gamer, and it has the ability pay 4 black or Phyrexian Mana, or black Phyrexian Mana, I don't know, whatever. So do that, and then choose a card you own from outside the game that has been banned or restricted in a constructed format. Reveal that card and put it into your hand. That is a pool of, oh boy, at least 100 cards, if not 200. The funny thing is, I don't even own a Worldfire. I mean, theoretically, you'd want it to be a black card, because you're obviously playing black if you have this one. But yeah, at least they're making fun of Spikes, because people hate that archetype of player. Spike is sometimes synonymous with jerk. I mean, sometimes it's just a play style and a deck type preference, but usually it's pretty much meant as an insult. See also, try hard. Anyway, I mean, you get to put it in your hand, you still gotta pay for it, so it's like, whatever. I'm sure there's some pretty good black banned card candidates, but can't really think of any on the top of my head here. Next up, Squirrel Powered Scheme. Oh boy. I love how the squirrel's kind of like grabbing the camera or something. That's kind of cool. 3-cost enchantment. Increase the result of each die you roll by 2. Oh boy. I have a feeling that one of the other major mechanics in the squirrel decks are going to be die rolls, so this just looks like it would be really powerful without really seeing any of the other cards that involve die rolls that you'd want to increase. This just looks good. Next up, Steam Flogger Service Rep. I'm starting to think that the Steam Floggers are basically a really crappy corporation. Whenever another goblin enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 1 generic. If you do, Steam Flogger Service Rep assembles a contraption. Ooh, that's powerful. That's why they made it a 1/1 for 3. They want your opponent to be able to stop this, or they will run away with the game real quick. I mean, if you can get like 10 contraptions on the field and you just go like 3-4-3 or whatever, oh my God, how would your opponent even play around that? So I absolutely love this, and it goes with the whole tribal boost synergy monocolored stuff. I think mixing colors even in a draft environment where you have a little bit more control would just be a detriment in almost all cases, but I guess we'll see. That's just my theory for now. Now next we've got the Grand Calcutron, which is another mythic. My two favorite colors, and you could really only play it if you're running dual colors unless you have fixing. So that goes against everything I just said, but blue-white, my two favorites, love it. When the Grand Calcutron enters the battlefield, each player's hand becomes a program, an ordered row of revealed cards. Huh, never heard that mechanic before. So you reveal all your cards and set them down in a row. So it says players can only play the first card of their program. I assume that would be left to right in North America at the very least. If a card would be put into a player's hand from anywhere, that player reveals it and places it anywhere within his or her program instead. At the beginning of each player's end step, if that player's program has fewer than 5 cards, he or she draws cards equal to the difference. So that's Blitzkrieg rules. Now remember, this is each player, so this card would just be annoying. I really can't imagine what would be the logic behind playing this, other than if you have a bunch of cheap spells and you wanted to try to just outcast them on sheer numbers or something. And then the best thing is it would stop you from playing control spells in a timely manner, because what if they're not, the furthest left in the program and you're playing white-blue? I mean, this would hurt you more than it would hurt anyone else. I don't really get this card. There might be something I'm missing to this, but just on the first read and thinking about it, it just doesn't seem smart. Next up, Wall of Fortune. Oh my God, I love that artwork. It's a 0/4 defender wall in blue, which is pretty typical, and you may tap an untapped wall you control to have any player re-roll a die that player rolled. Oh boy. That is pretty manipulative, while also like being a 0/4 wall, so don't discount that. I would absolutely throw this in, even if my opponent just, by sheer luck, was not using dice at all on any of their cards. Because, in the off chance that your next opponent does use dice, you could start screwing with them, basically, with this, and that's funny to me. And finally, Work a Double, a double red, actually, sorcery. Assemble 2 contraptions. I get it, work a double. So it seems like there might be assemble multiple contraptions in every color. I think we've seen a white one, a blue one, and a red one. We've kind of seen a black one. So that's kind of cool. It's not just, when this dies, then do it. Or when it enters the battlefield once, it's just like a one and done spell, just give me some contraptions. And then you don't really know what the result's going to be because you don't know what card is next in your contraption deck. So that just adds a little bit of unpredictable fun to the game. So far this looks twice as fun as it did yesterday to play, but I really don't like the 2 exceptionally confusing cards where you just don't understand how they work until somebody tells you or you look it up, and then the game comes to a complete halt. I just think that was really some design mistakes. I don't think that was smart at all. So all I've got to say is hopefully they post the rulings ahead of time. Hopefully they post the rulings at all, or we're just going to have to guess, and all the actual judges are just going to be scratching their heads and making things up. And if they do come up with them, definitely read them, obviously. So that's my advice for now. What do you guys think? Are you looking forward to it? Do you like that they upped the silliness factor? And do you think it's going to get even worse? I do. I think it's going to get silly to the max. I can't wait to draft it, and I'll see you guys next video.